I think you will be recording, so if Atibhai joins in, or if if he cannot connect to other brothers, they can, inshallah, see the recording of it. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa bihi nasta'in wa huwa khairu nasirin wa mu'in wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. We've been looking at introduction to Usul al-Fiqh. The section of fiqh we are doing right now instead of usul. Usul will come after fiqh. And today, as we said, we will look at a brief history of jurisprudence and jurisprudence, or jurist, Shia jurist, and how much of our practices are quite close to the Imam's period. This itself is quite fascinating. We also promised to look at the article of Ibrahim al-Jannati, which is on Ijtihad. The reason we are looking at this article is to point out to the traces of Usuli thought during the lifetime of the Imams themselves. As we know that some of those who have gone through the article, but very briefly, I'll go over it again with all of you, particularly for those who haven't gone through that article. The article begins by mentioning the author writes about the time of the Prophet and how the Sharia was at that time, and how Prophet made the Sharia or the laws, and there wasn't any need for anyone to really exercise ijtihad or use their qiyas or aql or whatever. But right after the demise of the Prophet, for the Ahl Sunnah, it was quite difficult for them to really find out, to really understand, to really know what law is. For them, the source was the Quran, but Quran was too much of a complex text, and the Sunnah the same as well, because we tend to see that among the companions there were a lot of difference of opinion. Abdullah ibn Masud, he practiced in a different way. Abdullah ibn Abbas practiced in a different way. So even among the companions there were difference of opinion existing. Still, it was quite difficult for them to really standardize fiqh, standardize law. But alhamdulillah, we were blessed till 8th century, that the Imams were present. The Imams were there for us to really answer or to fulfill our needs of or the code of practice or the law within the society. But for the Ahl Sunnah, it was quite difficult. However, they embark upon the path of ijtihad quite earlier than us, and that is why the famous treaty on Usul al-Fiqh is by Imam Shafi'i. The first treaty that we find is by Imam Shafi'i today. Now, while looking at the practices of ijtihad amongst the Shias, we tend to find the traces of for example, a book written on alfad, on words, or the usage of word usage by Hisham ibn Hakam, who was the student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Obviously, when we are talking about alfaz, we will be looking into in our further discussions where the command form, the amr or nahi, the imperative command form, the imperative negative form, and its meaning, and what does that really signify, what does really a terminology majhul really means, and how that is defined. And these are the principles that the usuli use. For example, they talk about majhul, they talk about mubayyan, and the definition of these majhulat, or some of those terms that are there and how they are explained. So here we have Hisham ibn Hakam, a student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, writing on alfaz. Then you have Yunus ibn Abdul Rahman, who was the student of Imam Rada alayhi salam, who wrote a short treatise on Usul al-Fiqh itself. You have Al-Fazl ibn Sha'zan al-Azdi Neshaburi, who was the student of Imam Hadi alayhi salam, who have written a book on a fatawa. And you have Ma'ad ibn Muslim, who was a student of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, who clearly says that I sit in the mosque and I give fatwa, because the usulis are criticized of giving fatwa, and the imams, they only have the authority to give a fatwa as such. I'll just read you the hadith of Ma'ad ibn Muslim from the beginnings of Shia Ijtihad. Ma'ad ibn Muslim said to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that I've been told that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says to Ma'ad ibn Muslim, I've been told you sit in the mosque and give fatwa to the people. I said, yes, I'm doing that. Then I said, before I leave you, I have to ask you a question. My practice is that when I sit in the mosque giving fatwa, a man comes and asks me a certain question. If I know that he is one of your opponents and does not act according to your views, I narrate to him a fatwa which is acceptable in his legal school. If I know that he is one of your follower, I give a fatwa in accordance with the Shia school. But if I cannot find out to which group he belongs, I explain to him various fatwas, putting in your views among them. The Imam replied, carry on in the same fashion, for such is also my method. So Imam encouraged Ma'ad ibn Muslim to give fatwa, even to provide the opinion of other schools. And we tend to see this trend. For example, Shaykh Awwal, Shaykh Sani, Sayyid Murtaza, and all of these scholars, they were expert in other fiqh as well. And they would give fatwa in other fiqh as well. So giving fatwa was encouraged by the Imam, was asked by the Imam, yes, you give fatwa, you give the opinion of ours to others. And for example, you have another hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is إِنَّمَا عَلَيْنَا أَن نُلْقِيَ الْأُصُولِ. For us is to provide you with the principles, with the usul. وَعَلَيْكُمْ أَن تُفَرِّعُوا. And for you is really to ramify it. The ramification of the law belongs to the companions or to the scholars. But the providing of the usul and the principle belongs to the Imam. So the Imams themselves have laid the foundation of usul. For example, another hadith which is in this very article, very beautiful hadith, which is from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, which comes from Zurara. He said to Abu Ja'far, may I be your ransom. If two conflicting traditions are narrated from you, which one of them are we to accept? The Imam said, take the one which is well known among your companions, i.e., that is amongst the Shias, and leave the one which is unfamiliar. I said, Zurara said, what should we do if both the traditions are equally well known? So both are conflicting and both are well known. I said, then take the one which seems more balanced, adal. Take that one, and more reliable, awsaq, to you. I said, what if both of them are equally balanced, acceptable, and reliable? Both are contradicting, but both are reliable, both are unfamiliar and familiar amongst the companions. The Imam said, see which one of them is in accordance with the standpoint of the Ammeh. Which one of them is from the standpoint of the Ammeh, publicly known, that is the non-Shia Muslims. Leave that one. So the one which is accepted by the Ammeh, leave that one, but which is not accepted by the Ammeh, practice that one. I said, sometimes we come across two traditions, both of which are in agreement with Ammeh, or both of them contradict with their standpoint. What are we to do in such cases? The Imam replied, select the tradition which is nearer to caution, ihtiyat, and leave the other. Then what is our duty? If both the traditions are in accordance with caution, or if both of them are opposed to it, The Imam replied, in such a case, take any one of the two and leave the other. So if there is a ikhtilaf of opinion existing among the maraji or among the scholars, is because of this very reason. Because some of the traditions, they could be completely opposite to each other. And sometimes they could be, it would be very difficult to really examine them, whether the Imam have mentioned certain things from the taqiyya point of view, or where he has mentioned, purposely, or there is a ikhtilaf or contradiction of reports. What are we supposed to do in this case? So the Imam is clearly mentioning, take any one of them. It doesn't really matter to you. And for example, Zurara's understanding of something that is being adil, something that is being, more, balanced, and Hisham ibn Hakam's understanding of something that is being balanced could be very different. Hisham ibn Hakam could say that this is balanced. Zurara could say, or for example, further down the road, if you have, other companions, Ali ibn Baboy, for example, the companion of the 11th Imam, he has a different understanding of because of the zaman, because of the time, different understanding of what is balance and what is not balance. So this hadith is clearly pointing out to that usuli thought, where there is a principle of usul where they talk about contradiction of traditions. And it is a methodology that when they have a contradiction of traditions of riwayat, what are they supposed to do? Or for example, the usuli principle of ihtiyat, Imam is clearly mentioning here, follow, which is ihtiyat. Or the usuli principle of shuhrat, something that is famous among the companions, take that one. So you have the traces of usuli principles during the lifetime of the Imams themselves. The Imams, they have clearly, as fuqaha, as we said, fuqaha, this term of fuqaha was used by the Imams. Imam addresses Habib ibn Mazahir as a faqih. Zurara is as a faqih, for example, during the time of the sixth Imam. And many others were known as the fuqaha of the time. And they were asked to give fatwa, or they were asked to express or use usuli principles in order to answer them, because the Imams were in house arrest, because they had, many of the followers had no opportunity to go see the Imam. But the Imams, they themselves appointed their wukala, their mushtahideen, or their wazirs, their representative, to really answer to the needs of the people. But the akhbaris, they do tend to take hadiths. There are hadiths and traditions which kind of denote, or which kind of abhor giving fatwas. For example, anyone who gives fatwa without knowledge or guidance is cursed by the angels of divine wrath and mercy. Or anyone who acts upon qiyas, destroy himself and other who act upon his verdict. Whoever gives fatwa without knowledge, knowing nasikh and mansukh, or muhkam or mutashabih. See, these all nasikh, mansukh, mutashabih. These are all usuli terms that will come later, which will take a look. So we'll define them. So the methodology or the traces of ijtihad have clearly been seen during the time or the lifetime of the Imams themselves. Now, let me, as we said, we will look at let me share this key screen. Yes. So therefore, if you go through that article, I've just picked, a few things here and there just to point out that when usulis are criticized, we can clearly answer them by saying that, excuse me, during the companions of the Imam, they have composed, they have written things on on usul, and they practice ijtihad, they gave fatwas. Of course, it was not extensive as it is of today, because of how far we have fallen from the akhbar, from the hadith, from the riwayat. There are certain things that are missing, from our libraries. As they say, Sayyid Murtaza had 80,000 books in his own in his library in Baghdad, and all of them, do we have them or we don't, because of the invasion of Mughals and Genghis Khan, and how Baghdad was destroyed. So now let's look a bit about the history. As we said, we'll look at the history of jurisprudence and Shia jurist. We will look at from the period of Sheikh Kulaini to Imam Khomeini, which is about 900 current era to 1989. As we know that Sheikh Kulaini was contemporary to the time of minor occultation. So we are looking at from the period of minor occultation, where the Imam is in minor occultation, where he has the 4 deputies, Usman ibn Sayyid al-Asadi, 873 current era to 80, as he was the naib of the Imam. As we know that these nawabin, they had the authority from the Imam, which means that they had the legal authority, they had the spiritual authority, and they had the political authority. These nawabin khas, these 4 naibin, which is very similar to the Shia authority system. How they define authority as wilayat, as which eventually I would be looking at the Shia authority system, which we could kind of shed some light and try to understand what is the wilayat of the faqih really means, the guardianship of the fuqaha. What does that really mean, and where does that really come from? So therefore, these nawabin, they had that authority. Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Uthman, once again, he died in 917. That's Usman. Then you have Abu al-Qasim Hussein ibn Ruh Nawbakhti, who died in 938 current era. Then you have the Abu al-Hasan Abu al-Hasan Ali ibn Muhammad al-Samiri, who was the last naib of the Imam, and he died in 940. And then you have the contemporary to these nawabin is Kulaini. His works is very famous, as you know. One of the books, there are about 7 books of his, but one remained with us, which is Al-Kafi, Al-Kafi, Usul and Furu, 2 books if you want to call them. That is the period. He was born in 864 current era AD, and he died in 941. He was contemporary to another scholar, Al-Hasan ibn Abi Aqil al-Omani. He was from Yemen, apparently they say Yemen and Oman side. He was known to standardize Imamian law, and he was contemporary to Sheikh Kulaini, and very strong usuli. When we are talking about standardization, that sort of thought, that is an intellectual methodology, standardizing things, and that is a very usuli sort of mind that work in that fashion. So then after that you have Ali ibn Babwayh Qummi, who died in 939. Once again, he's also contemporary to Al-Omani and also Kulaini. They are living in the same period, same era. However, Ibn Babwayh was in Qum, was in Ray, was in Tehran, but Sheikh Kulaini was in Baghdad. Omani was there too, And after that, and the Nawazis are in Iraq as well. Um, there are about 12 of his works remain today of Sheikh Saduq. This is the first Saduq, the father of the second Saduq, Muhammad Saduq. Sheikh Saduq was lived during the time of the 11th Imam. He had no children or had some problems. Then the 11th Imam prayed for Saduq, his son. A son was born to him by the dua of the 11th Imam, as it says. Ali ibn Babawai, he has written, he was known as a jurist. He was also of that usuli thought. See, usuli thought, when we are saying usuli thought, that means that the utilization of intellect and aql was practiced by them in certain issues that they face. That's the grave of his in Qom. Then you have Ayyashi Samarkandi, who was a contemporary to Ali ibn Babawai. He was an exegist, a very famous exegist. He was a jurist as well. He studied about under 32 teachers. Many of his teachers were the companion of the 11th Imam. He was a Sunni to begin with, but later on he converted to Shia Islam. Then he had about 39 students, all of whose names are being mentioned in different encyclopedias that we have. Once again, one of the famous tafsir, Allama Tabatabai says that his tafsir is one of the best and famous tafsir that we have. Then you have Ibn Jamid Iskafi, who died in 991, who was the teacher of Sheikh Mufid. His opinions or his sort of approach to usul is well respected today and also studied today by the usulis. There are about 50 risalas that comes from him. If you look at the closeness of the time to the imams, that is very unique, that is very special. And how things have transferred. You have Ali ibn Babawai Qummi, you have Sheikh Kulaini in the same period. Then you have the student of Ali ibn Babawai Qummi, such as Ibn Jamid Askafi, or Sheikh Mufid himself. As we look at Ali ibn Babawai's student list, you would find that his student was the father of Saduq. His student was Mufid as well. So what it really provided them to excel in terms of teaching, in terms of educating and learning during that period. I'm just kind of shifting away from the coursework that we have. Shahid hasn't really pointed this out, but it is quite interesting to find out the political framework at that time, during that period. You have the deterioration of the Abbasi power, 945 AD. Then the coming of the Fatimite dynasty or Khilafat in the in the parts of Africa, western part of Saudi Arabia today, which started in 900. And as we know, Fatimids were Shia, were Sixers, but they were Shia. They kind of, the three, after the sixth Imam, the three Imams were in hiding, and the fourth Imam comes out and he establishes a dynasty. They were living in Morocco, and then from there they started the revolution. The last one regarded himself to be as Mahdi, and then he established a very strong Fatimid kingdom. And as they were Shias, there was less persecution. The Shia theology, the Shia kalam, the Shia thought was flourishing, and as a matter of fact, Fatimids or the Sixers Shias share the same view in regards to the authority. That is that the Imams have the political authority, the Imams have the legal authority, and the Imams have the spiritual authority. Very similar to the 12 Shias. But in Zaydis, you would find that Zaydis, they do not believe in the spiritual authority of the Imam. They do not believe in the legal authority of the Imam. They believe only in the political authority of the Imam for them. That is why they tend to, incline with the Ahl Sunnah in terms of their practices. So the Fatimid kingdom, they share the same view in regards to the authority, which gave the Shias quite a bit of a space to train, to educate, to excel in the religious sort of arena. Then you have the Buyid dynasty, the Ale Buya. They established in 934 till 1062. And as a matter of fact, it was a pure Shia dynasty, the Buyid dynasty. The present Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Syria, Oman, Dubai, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. First open Azadari practice in 963, and also Jashan of Ghadir was practice, came into sort of practice during this period. And this is the map. This is how much they kind of conquered or spread. So as they were Shia, the Baghdad school was established. You know, education in Baghdad flourish. Sheikh Mufid was in Baghdad. The Husn al-Dawla and all of these kings who were there, they approached the scholars there. Sheikh Mufid was invited many a times by them and to take advice in many affairs. Then after their downfall, where the Abbasid influence started to increase after their downfall, where the Seljuks, they came to power after that. But during this period, Sheikh Mufid played a very fascinating role to protect the Shia thought from, you know, the Ghullats who were there at that time as well. Eventually, that kind of supported the Safavids later on, which we'll look at it. So Sheikh Mufid played a great role at that time. Now going back onto the jurist, now you have Muhammad ibn Muhammad Nu'man, his name was known as Mufid. As you know, the title of Mufid was given to him by the 12th Imam. There are about 4 letters which is known as Tawqiyat from the Imam to Sheikh Mufid, addressing him as Faqih, addressing him as a helper, addressing him as Mufid. So that's where he get the title from. Mufid, once again, contemporary to Sheikh Saduq, the son of Saduq, not the father. And he was favored many a times by the 12th Imam in comparison with Sheikh Saduq himself. Sheikh Saduq has his own maqam, rahmatullah alayhi. His work, his contribution is fascinating and amazing. But when it comes to that usuli thought, because Sheikh Mufid really revolutionized the fiqh and the utilization of aql, and trained students, say such like Sayyid Murtaza, and Sheikh Tusi was also a student. He was quite young at that time, however. Sayyid Murtaza was a student. At the age of 15, he becomes a student of Sheikh Mufid in fiqh. But the usuli thought was further extended by Sheikh Tusi, which lasted for about a century. The thoughts of Tusi and Sayyid Murtaza as well further expanded the usuli thought. Ibn Junayd was also a student of Ibn Babawayh, and Ibn Junayd utilizes qiyas rather than the aql, rather than the intellect. But Sheikh Mufid kind of refined that procedure, that thought, and used aql and made aql as one of the principles of usul to derive or to deduct ahkam and law. As you know that he's buried in Qazimain, that's the grave of marhum Sheikh Mufid rahmatullah alayhi. Then right after that, you have obviously Ali ibn al-Hussein, or Sayyid Murtaza known as. The reason I mentioned that long name is to trace his lineage to the 6th Imam, Imam Kazim alayhi salam. He's buried in Karbala. Sayyid Murtaza, born in 966 current era, and he died in 1044 current era. He was given the title of Alamul Huda. Fascinating Baghdad, obviously lived in Baghdad, established Baghdad as a school, as a center of education. As we said, 80,000 books were there in his library. Some say that he wrote 80,000 works of his own in 80,000 books, and then he died at the age of 81. There was something about number 8 with him apparently. Anyways, so then Said Murtuza was the great grandson of the seventh Imam, and he established the school of Baghdad. He was known as Alamul Huda. Now, if you look at his period of birth and death, we are looking at the Seljuk period here. In Seljuk period, you have the influence of the Abbasides, as we said. The reason for him being given the title of Alamul Huda is because the Khalifa, one of the Khalifas of the Abbasid Khalifa, was very ill, and he saw Amirul Mu'minin in his dream, and he said that, go ask Sayyid Ali, Sayyid Murtuza, to Sayyid Ali Murtuza to do dua for his shifaat, and he is known as Alamul Huda. So the Khalifa writes a letter to Sayyid Murtuza saying that you are Alamul Huda. Then in response, he says that, I don't deserve that title. I'm nowhere close to that sort of title being given to me. Then the Khalifa says that, by God, I saw Amirul Mu'mineen, and he he asked me to address you with this title called Alamul Huda. So once again, very usuli in terms of his approach to fiqh. Sayyid Razi, who was his brother, as you all know, that these two brothers and their contribution, and the most famous of their contribution that we all know of Sayyid Razi is the Nahjul Balagha. And both these brothers, both of them studied under Sheikh Mufid. Here, history narrates that Sayyid Razi was of a Akhbari thought, and Sayyid Murtuza was of a Usuli thought. And apparently, Sayyid Murtuza was the one who was favored by Amirul Mu'mineen, which we tend to see very similar in relation to Sheikh Mufid and Sheikh Saduq. As we know, I didn't really get into the story of Sheikh Mufid, how he was saved from that fatwa of that pregnant woman, because we have heard over and over again, we all are aware of that story. But other than that, letters that came from the 12th Imam to Mufid were amazing and very fascinating, how Imam addressed Sheikh Mufid with high respect. So we are looking at the period of 1044 current era, and then right after that, the student of Sayyid Murtuza is Sheikh Tusi, the first Tusi, Sheikh Abu Ja'far Tusi. Sheikh Abu Ja'far Tusi, very renowned name, lived in Baghdad, studied under Sayyid Murtuza, studied under Sheikh Mufid, and then with the invasion of Mughals, and the destruction of Baghdad, which took place, burning of the libraries, which we tend to hear, excerpts of the speeches of our Maulanas, where the Euphrates turned blue and black, and how the books were burned, and so on and so forth. Sheikh Tusi fled to Najaf. When he flees to Najaf, he established a Hawza in Najaf. That was the first time where the Hawza of Najaf was established. Now, Sheikh Tusi in Najaf, finally, he establishes the Hawza of Najaf, and he started teaching there, a great center in Najaf that even still exists today. The books of Tusi are still studied, in the Hawza. For example, Mabsut, for example, his commentaries on philosophy, his books on usul, we still have those books and we still study them. And nobody really criticized Sheikh Tusi. for a very long period of time. Sheikh Tusi was the word in kalam, in sort of theology, in kalam, in usul, in tafsir. His books were many, so his books were taught, and he wasn't really criticized by many years. But until we have Ibn Idris Hilli, who apparently was the first one, who was the grandson of Sheikh Tusi himself, and he was the one to criticize Sheikh Tusi. And then once again you have the expansion or the extension or of the usuli thought. Obviously, when that critique comes about, then the students, they start to criticize. Once a polymath is criticized, then obviously the other dare to do so. Then you have Fakhr Muhaqqiqeen, which is known as Muhaqqiq Hilli. He was the student of Ibn Idris, the first Hilli, the first Tusi and first Hilli, because we have Muhaqqiq Hilli, we have Allama Hilli. These are all different Hillis, which we'll deal with them later on when we are doing the historical development of jurisprudence. So far, I think we'll stop here and we'll take a few questions here, obviously, in regards to the history of our scholars. So you see a chain of scholars, how the ilm was transferred, how hadith was transferred, and how that usuli started to develop. And if you may recall, we had mentioned that the phases of fiqh and fuqahat, where Ali ibn Babuwayh Saduq, the father of Saduq, was the first one to start writing books without the name of narrators, because previously the chain of narrators was mentioned, but after that we start seeing that the chain of narrators were not mentioned. Sheikh Saduq, being a Akhbari as well, we find that many a time Saduq also dropped the chain of narrators. So therefore, the transformation of fiqh, we are talking about fiqh, we haven't entered the usul as of yet, but we kind of pointed the traces of usul among the fuqaha. So the fiqh was transferred from the imams to the scholars, and from these scholars we have that fiqh today. The books of Saduqa is there, the book of Kulaini is there, the criticism of those hadiths and the refining of those hadiths by the usulis still exists today. So it's our practices are quite close to the practices of the imams of that time. Shaykh Mutahari mentions further in this book that if I want to trace my lineage of my of ilm, of my teachers, from Ayatollah Burjadi, who was his teacher in fiqh, and then Ayatollah Burjadi teacher in fiqh, who it could go up till the imams, up till the imams of the time, up till the presence of the holy imams. To that period, it would extend, it would go there. So we will take a short break, if you would say, here, and open up for questions, and then we'll go further looking into the article or the book of Shaykh Mutahari himself, because he, right after this, he enters into the different books, the different chapters that are there in Usul al-Fiqh. And then if time, perhaps next week, what we could do is we could look at some of the remaining scholars from Sayyid Murtaza onwards. Sheikh Tusi, a bit about Sheikh Tusi. I will prepare that slide. I haven't done that. And then Ibn Idris, and then Muhaqqiq Hilli, Allama Hilli, and then Shahid Awwal, and then Sheikh Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi, the second Tusi, who becomes the wazir of Halaku Khan. So by that time, the Mughals were also influenced by the scholars. We'll take a slight short break with given if there be any questions or opinion to be shared by our brothers.
Maulana, may I ask a quick question?
Bismillah.
So, based on what I mean, at least maybe the conversation that we've been having, it seems as though the Aimma favored the Usuli thought. For example, with Sheikh Mufid being granted more reverence, if you will, from the Imam himself. So if that is the case, then where does the Akhbari philosophy or Akhbari thought process fit in all this? And was it even necessary? And why didn't we only have Usuli thought?
Yes, the Akhbari faded away because, it wasn't possible for them to really continue when we started seeing the influence of the when we started seeing these social changes. See, society is always changing, and fiqh doesn't change. Fiqh remains the same. Now, if fiqh remains the same, then we only have to provide fiqh or shariat with the contextual. It will remain contextual. It will not be universal. So the Akhbaris, they applied, contextually, rather than using the riwayat or the akhbar in the universal way. For example, there is a hadith of the Prophet, which we'll look at in detail later on. Rufiya an ummati ma la ya'lamun. There are 9 things that from my ummah is lifted away. One of the things in that hadith is mentioned that something that they do not know. So now this becomes a usuli principle. This becomes a universal hadith for the usuli to use this, that if I don't know the fees that I'm paying to get a visa for my Hajj, it is jaiz or not, right? Then they will apply this principle and they would say that if you do not know, then you're not responsible of. If you pay, you're not paying haram. I'm just using an example here. So therefore, the Akhbaris, they faded away because they faced a society that was rapidly changing, and people wanted answers, and people went to these scholars of Akhbar, but there were no hadiths in relation to that. So when we will look further in regards to the constitutional revolution, the thought of 90, we are talking about 17th century here. We find that how those who were Akhbaris, they were stuck with the society, what to do, and they kind of faded away. And the Usulis, once again, with the utilization of Aql, some of them, they expanded the Sharia, the parameters of the Sharia, or some came up with certain things, certain laws, that they base that on the Sharia, on Kitab and Sunnah, basically. When I'm saying Sharia, I mean based on Quran and Sunnah. That's what happened.
Thank you so much, Maulana. That helps a lot.
Assalamu alaikum, Agha.
Alaikum salam. Just let me add one more thing, Brother Salman. For example, khums. They used to bury the khums. The Akhbaris, they would say that, okay, the Imam is not there. The Imam have the right to take the khums. Sami Sadat, Sami Imam, or whatever. So I cannot take the khums. So bury it. So now imagine that thought to be continued up until today if the Akhbaris would have survived. You see. Wow. Yes, Bismillah, the other brother.
I just have a question regarding what the last comment about you said about Sheikh Tusi, that Ibn Idris al-Hilli criticized Sheikh Tusi.
Yes,
and if you can elaborate, what did he criticize of his works or of his philosophy?
Inshallah, when we'll look at the life of Ibn Idris,
Okay.
I'll point that out, inshallah, brother. Probably next week, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother Debal.
I just wanted to ask, the rejection of philosophy and perhaps even Irfan by some scholars, contemporary scholars, is that a legacy of Akhbarism?
That is because we have, because falsafa deals with aql, hikmat and aql and all that. That is the, that has to do with aql. And those who are more strict with akhbar, with hadith, with narrations, they might be usulis. They would not engage or entertain false philosophy or irfan, because like we were discussing earlier, there are hadiths which kind of shun the practice of fatwa, which the akhbaris use. In the same fashion, we have hadiths which shun the practice of ta'aqqul, the practice of philosophy, if you want to call, in regards to existence, so on and so forth, by the imams. So they use those traditions to attack or to criticize those who engage in falsafa. So it is based on akhbar, yes. Hello, Brother Salman.
Ji, I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we are. If there are no further questions, Maulana, if you want, would you like to disband for today, or do you want to kind of continue some more?
What I could do is probably just point out to the, kind of how Shahid have mentioned in regards to the whole development, if we are looking at right now, is in Iraq. Many of the scholars are Iraqi background, if you want to call. And also you have the Iranian sort of Ali ibn Baba Yaqummi, which is from Ray. So the fiqh have been kept and evolved or developed, not just by one category, from one part of the country, where many tend to criticize the Iranians that they have hijacked it, or they are the one who have coined this marja'iyat or ijtihad and that thought. But that's not the case. As you will go further, you would also look at the contribution of the Lebanese, Muhaqqaq Karaki, Shaykh Awwal, Shaykh Thani. Then you have the contribution of the school of Karbala, for example, where this, Ali Bahbahani, who established the school in Karbala. So Muqaddas Ardabili, for example, once again in Karbala. So what Shaykh Mutahari says in concluding, while giving the summary, is that the Shia fiqh is kept and developed by different scholars, not just people who were only from Iran as such. And this makes it more profound compared to it being one-sided. And then I think we can stop here, because it's been too much of information to download. I think it's entirely up to you all.
Alhamdulillah, I think I agree that maybe we can reconvene next week and can talk from here onwards. Would you like to suggest a particular part of the reading from the book that we should focus on next week?
I would email another link of an article to you.
Inshallah.
Take a look at that for further reading, inshallah.
Inshallah, that sounds good.
And you could, as you have the PDF, you could go through if you would like. I mean, we have reached to, I don't know, it's a different page number in that PDF to what I'm doing, the book that I have here, I mean. Yeah, I'm on page 149, which talks about Ibn Idris Hilli. That's the paragraph. Very little is mentioned about Ibn Idris and what sort of criticism was from him on Tusi, which we'll take a look next week. So I'm on page 149 for those who have the book Understanding Islamic Sciences. And I think the PDF version is different. The pages are different.
Yes, and I'll figure out which page it is, and I'll send it out to everybody. Inshallah.
Thank you, Salman bhai. Thank you very much. And if there be any questions in regards to that article of Tawheed by Ibrahim al-Jannati, you can ask as well. I just picked few things from there, but it's a very interesting article. I would recommend the brothers to go through that.
Inshallah. Any other questions for Maulana from the participants? Okay, well, inshallah, based on that, we'll reconvene next time again at 8 a.m. And inshallah. Any last thoughts, Maulana? Anything else I can do for you?
Thank you very much, Agha.
Okay, inshallah.
If there be any sort of changes needed, required, elaboration, let me know. All of the brothers, they can
Sit down, please. I'm bringing.
Inshallah, or directly.
Inshallah, that sounds like a good plan. So we will reconvene next week, inshallah.
Okay.